As a preacher, we're always looking for illustrations. I took my son to a store. I saw the shirt that says, no risk, no reward. And I saw the gambling. And right away, I remembered away Pastor Mitchell, when he says, you don't risk, it's the reward. And he always emphasized that on when you step on faith, when you go pioneer, whatever you do, life is a risk.
Since I gave my life to Christ, I think it was just a purpose. It was a direction. When God picked me up off my feet, there was 3 words He spoken to me that I heard clear as day. It wasn't in my head, it was outside, and the 3 words were, rise, move, and look, and that's what God wanted me to do. He wanted me to see what was around me, to see how I was covered with sin. And from then on, I knew if I continued to give my life to Christ, that He's gonna push me any direction I need to go. And I always say this to people I just talk to or preach to, or testify to, is that every open door that God has ever presented to me, I may have tripped, I may have stumbled, but He's never failed me. He's never let me down. No matter how hard the season has gotten, He's always been there.
I was never a bad kid, right? My father was a very strong disciplinarian, where we followed the rules but those rules didn't stay rules. They became my personal convictions. That was the transfer from rules to personal convictions and saying, God, you are touching my life and I'm going to surrender to you. Obviously I was insecure because of my weight. I was nowhere near what God wanted me to do. I didn't feel qualified. I always watched my older brother. He was tall, skinny, played the guitar, good at singing, and I was just the chubby blonde boy in the corner, not wanting to be in front of anybody. And so I would say more God brought me out of insecurity and gave me a supernatural boldness to the place where people don't even believe my testimony today, no way,
So our way is for me to live as Christ, meaning give it everything. And the thought is, you always risking. If you don't risk, you're not gonna see the results, because everything is a risk. So for me, the thought is that, you know what? If you're gonna do anything for God, if you're gonna impact this generation, I'm gonna have to not only live the lifestyle of risking it, but also implement that into our church, our youth. And that is, sometimes you're gonna lose, sometimes you're gonna win, but always with that mindset that whatever in life if you're gonna get rewarded, just you risk it. No risk, no reward.
My name is Josh Lobato. I got saved. I can't tell you because I was raised in church. I can't tell you a specific time, like a specific day that I got saved. I do remember the first time I prayed the sinner's prayers because I cheated in Monopoly and my brother caught me. And I was just a young kid, but I got saved. I feel like it was a progressive thing in my life. And but I would say what marked my salvation was in the 11 and 12, area of my life. When I began to make right choices and decisions, I began to discover, that what my mom said, girls have cooties, it's not really that true, and just begin to make choices and decisions for Christ. And so right now in my ministry, we were just announced to go to Texas, McKinney, Texas, and so we're gonna go there. Actually, I leave Tuesday to go scout out to see exactly where we wanna go. We're gonna go pioneer a church again, and this will be the 4th church that we pioneered. We pioneered in Myrtle Beach, and then we went to Suzhou, China, then we went to Henderson, Nevada, and now we'll be going to McKinney, Texas. It's the second thing that human beings fear the most is public speaking. So for God bringing me from a place that I'm insecure, literally didn't want to have any kind of conversation or with people in general, period. I was a mama boy. I hid behind my mom, and would go in the corner, go in my dad's office because he was the pastor and just staying away from people. But I remember I did feel the call of God on my life, and I would pray in the prayer room, God, you got to give me boldness. Like I hated that about myself, you know? I did not like that. And I would pray, God, give me boldness. And I can say it was a friend. His name was Isaac. And he came into my life, and we were just best friends. He was saved as well. And it's like when I was with my friend Isaac, like I could care less about what people think, and he would cover my insecurities, I'd cover his insecurities. And before we know it, even in school, we were on the football team and playing sports, and we became popular. We didn't even know it because we just didn't care anymore. And I remember it was in a classroom, social studies, and I made a joke, and even the teacher everybody was laughing, and it's almost like God made the whole room in slow motion. And he said, I gave you boldness, now use it for me. And, like I get the goosebumps thinking about it even still. That was a marking point in my life where I began to step out, preach to my whole school, stand on the, after football games and with the bullhorn and do, the crazy things that we do. And so I think all of that was preparing me for what God had, so when I went and, pioneered a church and, that God filtered a lot of that out of me, and still to this day, you get those, those butterflies and like, oh man, tonight, and, but God always moves and yeah.
All right, my name is Jonathan Anthony Gastelum Guerrero. I was saved May 1st, 2021 at 3 in the morning. Born and raised in San Jose, California. For the church here, I have several ministries, man, but I think the biggest is just being a servant. I'm the youth leader. I'm also, in other ministries as far as the sound leader as well, provide and help in as far as dramas and everything like that. So just be a disciple wherever it can be, basically.
My name is Megan Guerrero. I got saved November of 2005, I believe. I was 12 years old, so I'm 32 now. But I live here in San Jose. I'm married to this guy. And we together, I support him in being a youth leader. And, also the other ministries that we do as well, children's church, nursery, song service, just anything we can help out and be a part of.
And before Christ, 2021 was only about 4 years ago. Basically, before Christ, I was broken. I think that's the quickest way. But the other way, I think it was just, I was confused, I was lost. I was juggling with the idea if God even existed at times, and especially being a church kid and being almost surrounded by God all the times. I was confused, really confused, basically. So, like I said, May 1st, 2021, 3 in the morning, God, I wouldn't say that he met me there, but that was probably the one time where actually I opened the door for him to come into my life. And, it wasn't a pretty sight. I was broken, I was lost. I was gonna do something very stupid, but God picked me up right then and there at 3 in the morning, off of my knees, and just held me there. And so God did a miracle in my life right then and there, basically. After Christ, it's beautiful. That's the best way I can put it. It's beautiful. It is. This is kind of cheesy, but if you look outside and sometimes, especially in New Mexico, you see some of the most beautiful clouds, beautiful skies, and that's honestly the best way I can put it. It's an awe. I'm in awe of everything that God has continued to do and is doing in my life right now. I think what inspires me the most is sometimes I see myself in them, and in a sense of where not every kid is on fire for God. Not every kid just grasps or understands it. And that was me growing up. I was going with the motions with my father, just trying to be there, and it wasn't my relationship with God, it was his. And now that being saved, be radical for God, being on fire, and I see kids, and sometimes we want to just tell them, hey, you need to give your life to Christ or else, but they don't get it. They don't understand why. And that was me. And so I know eventually God stepped into my life and had an encounter, but I wish someone would have told me, you know, hey, the end goal is just to make it to heaven. Sometimes the burdens of words of, you know, this or that can weigh heavy on a 15, 14-year-old kid. And at the time, that was me. When people would speak into my life with good intentions, but at the time, with not being able to understand it fully, I carried that on my shoulders. I couldn't grasp it. I didn't know it. They were just saying that there's a possibility of what God can do in my life. Not that it was my responsibility that whether or not these kids get saved or anything like that. And so I think what really pushes me now is that there's a kid just like me who's doubting, who's afraid, who didn't ask for this, but just doesn't realize that all that matters is that they make heaven their home.
Am I serving God? Am I serving God because of all of the benefits that come with it? Or am I serving God because He saved me? Ultimately, that's what it's about, right? Like, God saved us from sin to spend eternity with Him, regardless of whether my dreams get fulfilled, whether, you know, what He's placed on my heart gets fulfilled. God, I'm gonna serve you no matter what, you know, like, I don't care if I lose friends, I don't care if I have like the worst job in the world, you know, like, I'm gonna serve you with all my heart and help me. Something I pray is like, God, help me to love you with my whole heart.
We have a saying, and it's just some of our pastor friends, no risk it, no biscuit, right? And so the whole idea is that you lay it all out there. And I can tell you that's always been my heart, right? And, you know, the first time when we went to China, we sold everything that we had and did everything that, you know, and it was kind of easy. The second time was a little more tough, right? I had a family, you know, my life is together. But this is what our lives are about. There's a general call, go into all the world. And, you know, so I'm willing to risk, you know, if God calls me today, I still face it even today, right? That right now we're in the middle of packing up everything that we have. And again, moving my family. And it's not so much stuff, but it's more me as a father and a husband taking care of my kids now and making sure they're secure. And, you know, you have those natural thoughts of, man, you know, I'm dragging my family all over the world, but I'm willing to risk it. And the reward is beyond what I could ever imagine. What God has, you know, used my life for in China. You know, we have 5 churches in China now. And, you know, we planted churches in Henderson, and the first church that we pioneered is planting churches. And I look back and I've always had, you know, something in my life. I don't want to have no regrets. Therefore, I'm going to risk everything because God's rewards are way bigger.
So my name is Sofia Guerrero, and my church is La Casa del Alfarero, and I live in California. And the year I got saved was 2023. I got saved at boot camp in New Mexico, and God just dealt with me there, and He changed my life. I feel my reward has been like people looking up to me, in the sense of like I have little girls like coming up to me and asking me questions, like some girls asking me like, oh, like, how do you do it? Like, how, like, do you like put up that front or like put up like that? We're not caring about what people say about like your lifestyle or like, you know, like what people are doing. So I feel like one reward that I reaped from that, or like basically because I look up a lot to like my brothers and my youth leaders, which are the youth leaders. And like one thing that I've like seen from them is like that they don't care about what people are saying. They care only about what God is saying. So that's shown me like, okay, that I could do the same thing in my life. And what I've gotten from that is like people have been looking up to me, and I feel like I could be a testimony to them where I don't have to be afraid. And you know, it's been like, you know, just amazing to see like people's lives being changed because of that.
The most rewarding part, I think it's just that. I think even my wife had a conversation about it where we were just baffled that we're even here, right? I would have been just as happy if I was just able to come and sit, you know, and enjoy it from that perspective. But the fact that we're here, and the fact that if we try to give God just a little bit of ourselves, that has a chance to allow someone to get saved, someone to touched, spoken to by God, basically. And eventually, I believe that one day we'll be able to see those fruits in heaven. And that's my thing. I just want to pray to God. I pray that I didn't miss the opportunity to push that, or to give all I could give to God, knowing that a kid, a young child, a young man, a young woman got saved and made heaven their home. Because I would like to see these kids obviously grow up one day and become pastors and missionaries. But if something were to happen, unfortunately, like if that event ever occurred in their lives, I know that they're in heaven at least. Just because we put in effort, we got to do this, and that's really the most rewarding, is that lives are getting saved, souls are getting saved, and that's just a blessing to be a part of that, basically.
Well, the value is man, at the end, is seeing those teenagers getting saved. About 10 of them got saved. That's a miracle of God. That for me, it's worth it. Like, man, God, if whatever we spend, we did. It's just the value of the soul. Even one got saved. Not only that, but just to minister to the young people and to see that they can have an expression from Modesto, Stockton, Sacramento, Salinas, like that we can get united. And as we get united and we do this for the kingdom of God, we're gonna see that the leaders are basically forming out of what we do. So the vision that I have in my mind is, I'm hoping that people get it. I'm hoping that pastors, leaders will say, you know what, we can do this. We can get our troops together, and we can get it. We can throw up. We can do something for Jesus, and basically get this. If I said the word, the word is Spanish is batuta, which is the baton. So passing on. I'm trying to pass it on to any church, to any one of these kids, saying, listen, you guys have a tremendous potential to do something for God. And then not only that, the preaching, the conviction of the Holy Ghost. Something happens when you gather people around. Something happens when you get people from all over the cities of northern San Jose to see the Spirit and say, you know what? I see that in my church, and that's not only in my church, but it's happening anywhere. So the newcomer that came in and he sees this and says, you know what? I can do this. I can one day I can preach like Pastor Lavaro, PK, Pastor's kid. Man, or you grew up in the church. The testimony, powerful testimony of Pastor Lavaro. If they get that, if they just respond to the calling, for me is like, you know what? Is any sacrifice, the value is tremendous. The value to see my friends, to see all of you get together. For me, it's like, man, I see like, wow, man, it is really worth it. Just to see people get together, and the value is to really is to transmit a spirit, the spirit that is on the flow through the young people. And the reports are, man, people were excited, touched by God, and if I accomplish that, and if I'm able to through our leadership and bring that to them, is for me, is the value is incredible. Is the value is for me is souls, people, discipleship.
So I know.